It's based upon the common material that's found in Matthew and Luke, but not in Mark. And the question has been, why is it that the sayings of Jesus, which are so central to the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, why aren't they in Mark? Well, the sayings of Jesus, or what is called Q, are all open and revelatory. They're all open. Therefore, they don't advance the esoteric nature of the Gospel of Mark. Therefore, they have no need. There's no place for it. Now, what's interesting about Q, and there's some really very, very fine scholars that are involved in this, and I invite everyone to get into it because it's really fine literature. It's been hypothesized that these sayings of Jesus, called Q, have their origin in a kind of thought that was current at the time and found principally among a group of philosophers called Stoics and Cynic philosophers of that period. They know the city, they know where they taught, they know when they taught, they've identified them. It's several cities in Decapolis at the time. And if so, then Jesus is continuing a philosophical tradition, not necessarily nor primarily rooted in Judaism, but in the Hellenics, in the Hellenistic period. Now, the more that gets developed, the more we'll be able to see that we have one tradition that expresses itself esoteric, the other one exoteric, but they're both primarily grew out of philosophy. And that's what I wanted to take you through this evening. So thank you for letting me take you through it. Open to questions. Thank you. Yeah.
What do you find mysterious about that question when the high priest asks Jesus if he's Christ, the Son of the Blessed? He says, "I am." What do you find questionable about that?
Oh.
And that seems to be a pretty direct answer.
Yeah. Son of the Blessed. Mm-hmm. Is that equivalent? The question is whether that question is equivalent to, are you the Son of God? That's the first question. Mm. That requires some reflection. Next. If whatever this statement means, are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed? When he says, I am, and then describes what he is as the Son of Man, which part of the question that was asked is he answering? Are you the Christ? I am. Are you the Son of the Blessed? I am. Is that the Son of God? Or is that, he says, no, I'm Son of Man. And I'll be sitting at the right-hand side of God and will be coming on the clouds of heaven. So therefore, it is something that one must puzzle through. Okay. And depending upon how you read in the arguments you must generate out of the text to try to answer that, you go one way or the other. And therefore, it's a built-in puzzle, one of the great puzzles of the gospel itself. That help?
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. A lot of other things we could say, but
the resurrection part of the Gospel of Mark was added on later?
Yes.
Yes. Time frame, when was that?
When was that discovered?
Yeah.
Well, Count Tischendorf found the earliest. See, they were going on the hypothesis that if you could only find the earlier well-preserved Bibles with New Testaments, the earlier they are, the purer they would be and less contaminated by additions and corruptions of the text. And so there was a great effort to try to go throughout the Near East and search out old monasteries, libraries for texts. And Count Tischendorf went to the monastery at St. Catherine's in the Sinai Desert. And that was one that was built somewhere around the 8th or 9th century in the desert, very difficult to get to, inaccessible. And he got in there, and there's a great story, by the way. It's in several books, which I can recommend to you later. And he found this very ancient Bible, very well preserved in this monastery. And they've been able to date it at approximately 325 to maybe 340 AD. So, say 340 AD. Now, Tischendorf is one of the really great translators, and he's really a self-made man, like many of these biblical scholars are. They're not products of universities, they're products of self-development. And yeah, well, it's very important. I mean, if you want to learn something, I think it's better to learn it on your own than at university. You know, I mean, that's my own belief. Well, somehow he forgot when he was studying it that maybe he should have left it in the monastery. In any case, he brought it with him. And it jeweled and crusted here or there, but, you know, I mean, he had been working on it so long, and he just thought maybe it was his. And he gave it to the Tsar in Russia. But he printed a copy of course, the text, in 1879. So it's from 1879 to the present that this has been well known to scholars, that gospel ends at 16:8. That means the 12 verses that were added must have come after the 4th century and probably the 5th century. And there's a whole volumes of arguments that seem to suggest that they think they know who added it in and when, and there's a big story about it, and it's very exciting reading. One of the ways in which they come to this conclusion is that all references to the Gospel of Mark before this date never mention anything about the resurrection. Then the other gospel they found, Bible that they found in the Vatican in 1475, the Vatican Library didn't know they possessed it. Someone went in there and found it. According to the story, I'm just telling you what I've read. It's equally as old, maybe just a little older, has the same conclusion at the same place, and therefore two independent works, not coming from the same source, are making the same point, and that leads one to believe. See, all biblical research is based upon one word, likelihood. Right? And the start of biblical analysis on likelihood was from Valla, Lorenzo Valla. But there are many modern Bible translations, like the NEB, the New English Bible, where they make footnotes, and they let you know that the section after 16:8 is called the shorter version, and another the longer ending, and they make the point that authorities believe that this is later, but they don't make it as bold as I would make it, which is, hey, this was tacked on later. Right. But nonetheless, if you know how to read those footnotes, that's what it's saying. Yeah, anything more? Could I?
What does it take for someone to stand on one spot between